As promised in my last video, I will cover today the tools that I use when airbrushing. As you can see here, this is the basic tool when airbrushing. The Model Air is by far my favorite. It needs very little thinning, if any, depending on which spray setting you're using. If you're using very fine detail, you do want to thin it. And for that, I use this acrylic thinner made by Model Master and the thinner medium made by Vallejo. There's really not a big difference in the two. This one seems like it's a little more water-based, and it's all about preference, really. I really don't have a preference over one over the other, so it's just whichever one I grab is the one that I use. Also use the Createx airbrush colors. If I'm doing terrain, this is primarily what I use for the black base, and it comes in all sorts of colors. Not as many colors that's available in the Model Air, but you really don't need a lot of colors that you can't mix yourself if you're going to be using the Createx. As far as the cleaner goes, you can use alcohol or whatever you want to use to clean your airbrush. I just use this airbrush cleaner. It's $5 for a large bottle, and it takes forever to go through that. Let's see, for flow improver, I use the Galleria Winsor & Newton. It's about $10 for this large bottle, and as you can see, I've been using it for, I don't know, probably 2 years now, and this is all that I've used. So it will last a very long time. As far as priming goes, I use the Model Master acrylic white primer. Depending on what you're painting, if you're painting a tank or a medium sized piece of terrain, small to medium, you do not need to thin this because your spray pattern will be wide. If you're going to paint a miniature, it's probably not a bad idea to throw a couple of drops of thinner in there just to make sure it doesn't get clogged up in your airbrush. Again, it all depends on what you're painting. And then to seal it off, I don't use any kind of sealer in the airbrush. I've heard some really bad things about how it can clog up your airbrush if you don't get it cleaned out completely. So I just use this Krylon crystal clear acrylic flat sealer, and it does the trick. So that's pretty much it as far as the paints that I use. So we'll go on to the tools. So here's the first in the list of invaluable tools when painting or airbrushing. This is called the Lazy Susan. I guess I don't know how it got its name other than the fact that Susan probably invented it. I'm guessing that she had a real motivation issue. As you can see, this one has a little track on the bottom, and also it used to be white. You can see it's caked up with black primer. This is what I use pretty much extensively, priming terrain, priming tanks, miniatures, you name it. This thing is worth its weight in gold, and it was only $2 or $3, so definitely worth the price. You can get pretty much every angle. Just spin it around, and you don't have to worry about touching it or moving it while it's drying. Second piece, and by far my favorite piece, is this PV Junior from Panavice. It will let you move in pretty much any direction that you want to spin. Hope that wasn't too fast, but excellent for airbrushing. You can get right up on the model with your brush. Be great for painting as well, just using a regular paintbrush, but I found that putting a small piece of terrain, miniature, tank, you name it, this thing will slide in and out. It has a really good grip, so this is another tool that is invaluable when using your airbrush. Moving along to the specific airbrushes that I use, we have the Badger 155 Anthem. This is an entry-level airbrush. It'll run you about $60 to $70. It's a fantastic airbrush for the price. Highly recommend it for anyone getting into airbrushing. It is a suction feed, which some people like, some people don't like. The reason that I like it, since I primarily build and paint terrain, is I can get this huge bottle and fill it up, and this will last forever. I don't know how long I've had this one paint bottle, but I could do probably 10 or 15 pieces of terrain, easy, large pieces, with just this one bottle. It is dual action. Push down for air, pull back for paint. And the amount of paint that comes out is dependent on how hard you push down and how much you pull back. Fantastic brush again. I cannot say enough good things about Badger. The next is the Master Model G77. It is a trigger gun. It works the same way as the trigger on the top, except it's just like using a spray gun for a car. You have your air pressure adjustment valve on the bottom, and it is a gravity feed with several different size paint jars depending on what you want to be using it for. Has a very wide spray pattern, so if you're going to be doing a table, if you're going to do several large pieces of terrain, several large tanks, this is an excellent brush. Also very inexpensive. I want to say 50, may even be less than that. But if you're doing a lot of projects and you want an entry-level gun, this is very high quality and definitely worth it. And this is my baby. This is the Badger Sotar 2020. It will line the hairs on an ant's ass with no problem at all. As you can see, I've got some dried paint in there from all the use. I'm telling you, this is the cream of the crop, in my opinion. Again, that's one thing I want to stress. Different people will give you different opinions on what airbrush is best. In my opinion, this one is, for fine detail, the best that I've ever seen. Custom Micron is what, $450. I got this one for about $130, I want to say, off of eBay, and it was brand new. So for the difference in price, I really don't see that the Custom Micron has anything on this one. You do have to be very careful when thinning your paints. It is finicky about that. If your paints aren't thin enough to spray that micro-sized detail, it will clog up. But as long as your paints are thinned correctly, again, in my opinion, you cannot get any better than the Sotar 2020. Now moving on to the compressors that I use. This is a 1/3 horsepower Airbrush Depot model. It runs about $120, I think, after tax and shipping. If you have to pay tax, I think it's around $120. It is dual piston, and it has a tank on the bottom, the storage tank for the air. Man, I need to clean a little bit, it looks like. I really like this one for indoor spraying, small pieces, small models, things if I'm not going to have my airbrush on for a lengthy period of time. It will hold up to 4 liters, which isn't a lot. It'll store about 30, 35, 40 psi, which is good enough to do a couple of minutes worth of spraying if you're not holding the trigger down extensively. I can't say enough good things about this either. It's for the price, it's fantastic. You can use it in an apartment at night when your wife, girlfriend, mother, father is sleeping, and it will not wake them up. It's very, very quiet. It has the handy carry handles on the top. It is not real heavy either, which is a good thing. Easy to transport. It comes with the moisture trap and an air gauge, which again are invaluable. Yeah, can't say enough good things about that one. And I also use the Big Mac Daddy, which I'm going to throw a picture up now. So the one in the picture that you just saw is a 4.5 gallon, 1.8 horsepower rigid 2-tank air compressor. It's used primarily for roofing, air guns, things of that nature. It's not something that you want to use when you're airbrushing unless you have the room for it. It is pretty expensive. I want to say around $250. It's great. I mean, you can fill up the tanks and airbrush all day long and not have to worry about it refilling. The problem is the noise is just unbearable. I mean, it will literally rattle the walls whenever you turn that on and get the tanks to fill up. So I have to use that during the day, or I have to fill it up during the day if I'm going to be using it at night on large projects. So tend to stick with this one if I'm doing anything small, or if I'm using it at night when the wife's asleep, because I really don't want her to come in here and beat me with a broom or something because I've turned on the big Mac Daddy during the day. But that is it. I guess I'm going to wrap it up here. These are the tools that I use for airbrushing as promised. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Hopefully more videos to come soon, and I will talk to you guys later.